in a moment. Oh, all right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us coming on today, I guess. Joining us, I don't know. Thank you for joining us for this morning for the UTRU meeting. I'm just going to go ahead and dive right on in. Oh, I should probably get the agenda up first. I know it's the approval of the April minutes. Does anybody have anything on that?
You mean May?
Or May, excuse me. See, I'm screwed up this morning. I'm sorry.
I'm reading it right off the agenda, so I don't know what you're looking at.
I was pulling up the agenda as I was doing it, but yes, the May meeting minutes. I apologize.
I didn't get the May meeting minutes. Did anybody else? Did I just miss them? Or
I sent it out with the notice, but
with the reminder.
Yeah,
I was looking for it too, and I didn't have an attachment.
Really, that's weird. Let me double check my email. I'm pretty sure I sent it out. If not, I apologize. Let's see, my sent. I'm not trying to keep you in the dark, I swear.
I was at the meeting, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. Sorry, my cat's in the way. You know what it was, is I sent the minutes after our, like just when I sent it out and it was ready, I didn't attach it to this actual meeting agenda is what happened. So my bad. If you'd like, we can table this and bring it back, or if you trust me. Okay, we'll go ahead and table that.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to just my updates. So as I think I mentioned the last go around, I was moving over this past month. So I didn't get as much work in for UTRU, but I did 14.25 hours worth of work during that time. I published the Transit Imagined landing page on the website so that we have something for people to go to. On the fundraising side of things, we've been making some advancements with the Larry H. Miller and Gail Miller Family Foundation. I've got 2 grants going actually with them, one for a general operations funding for $10,000, and then one specifically for our CAT program for $10,000. Working with Chris right now to just get some financials in. There's no deadline as far as when that stuff needs to be submitted, but obviously sooner rather than later is preferred, just so that we can continue to get some money in and get some operating costs. So encouraged by that. Also, we had some funds released from UCare thanks to the stuff that we're doing with John and the Vanpool program. We've got about $2,000 that has been released, which kind of leads into what I've also been working on, which is starting to bring the materials together for that CAT program. The presentation, basically, like here's the background of transit and here's how you use transit and all of that sort of stuff. So $2K there that I'm already starting to take advantage of and starting to build towards. And so we're moving forward on that. Continuing on, also going to be using, hopefully by this time next month, we should have letterhead and high dollars and that sort of stuff, reaching out to those high dollar donors to start actually building those conversations to hopefully continue to get some more money in on that front. By the numbers, we had 29 new Twitter followers sitting at 103, no new TikTok or YouTube followers, so they're at 12 and 8 respectively. 7 new members on the website, so a total of 220 total members. 1 new person on the mailing list, not a member, so that's at 41. And then we had 1 new dues paying member for this year, which is now sitting at 13. So that's the numbers. Any questions on anything?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I sent the financials to you.
Okay.
Just recently, I lost them on my desktop. They because I use a virtual desktop, they didn't go where I thought they were going to go. So, but anyway, I sent those to you today, and we need to talk about the budget format, because the budget you sent is it's an annual, but my guess is what they really want is a monthly budget, primarily because what they're going to do is release funds as we need them. And if you just say this is what the annual budget is, then
Sure.
that they're going to say no, we need it monthly, because they'll disperse the funds monthly rather than annually. I mean,
Annually.
they might do it, all at once, but I think probably what they're looking for is a monthly budget. But we can talk about that offline.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And I mean, I'm happy either way. It doesn't really matter, right? But certainly for the general one, that should be pretty easy. But yes, for the CAT program, they probably are expecting a monthly. So that's a good point.
Yeah, so we can talk about that offline.
Yeah, we will do that. Anything else anybody wants to talk about as far as my activities for the past month? Like I said, I was moving, so that really cut into everything I was doing, but now I'm starting to get back in the swing of things, get up and going. So yeah.
Yeah, Curtis, just let me know if there's anything you need on my end with the UCARE grant in terms of, it seemed like the invoicing process looks pretty straightforward. So
yeah, it is.
They're not too particular.
No, they just kind of want a broad overview. And so what I'm going to be doing, just Chris, to let you know, is, I'm just going to be submitting at the wholesale rate. It'll initially be drawn from UTRU directly, but we'll also be immediately sending for reimbursement. And then those checks will be coming to the Red Sage Lane address so that you can just go ahead and put it right back into the account is kind of what I'm thinking. So, yeah, so good news. We're getting money. We're starting to get money. And again, and I know I brought it up before, I am switching over really to just trying to bring in more funds on top of everything else and get it so that I can do way more than what I'm able to currently do just with funding. So cool. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, let's go ahead and move on. I don't see Devin on, but Michael has joined us. Thank you, Michael, for hopping on.
Sure.
And so I know Devin's always kind of been off and on and aware and certainly active, so I haven't heard from him one way or the other. But Michael, thank you for joining us, and under the presumption that you still wish to sit on the board. And why don't we just kind of start off by having you just introduce yourself?
Okay. Michael Plowman, and I was born and raised in Logan. I spent many years with the Boy Scouts in, specifically with the council in the Orem area, but that went all the way down to St. George. We covered all the way from Orem to the rest of the central and southern part of the state. So I spent many years there. I was the executive director for the Union Station Foundation, which is the 501c3 that's attached to the Union Station in Ogden. That the Union Station and the museums within the Union Station are owned and operated by the city of Ogden. And the foundation has kind of helped operate off and on, but is really more a fundraising arm now. I'm no longer the executive director there, but I'm still sitting on their board of directors. And I'm currently the deputy executive director for the Corona Breakthrough Foundation in Orem. We are a foundation that does mindset coaching and humanitarian missions. We've been to Ukraine 3 times in the last year doing some life-saving missions and humanitarian things, and we've adopted an orphanage in Mexico. So that's what I'm doing now. And I have a real passion, obviously, because of the Union Station Foundation for one thing, but also, public transportation. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a couple of years, and public transportation is something that is really, I think, something that's really important in our communities, especially as Utah continues to grow and expand. It's just there's such a great need for this kind of thing.
It's great. No, yeah, and just as some background, when I put it out there a while ago that, hey, we're looking for a couple of extra board members, Michael came along pretty quick and kind of reached out and said, hey, this is something I want to be interested in. We had a good chat. Oh gosh, what was it? Maybe a month and a half ago at this point.
Yeah, and I missed the last month's meeting because I was out of town. But yeah,
it happens.
Yeah.
But we had a good chat, and personally, I think he'd be a great addition to the board. Chris, you changed your background. But yeah, so personally, I think it'd be a great addition. Does anybody have any questions for Michael?
So Michael, you're down in Orem currently?
Well, yeah, we're moving down that way next weekend. We recently moved back from Texas. I was working in Texas for a year, and we've been living with my mother-in-law in Logan, but we're moving to Payson next weekend.
Oh, awesome.
That's where my son, my oldest son, and 3 of our 4 grandkids are.
Nice.
Awesome. Very good. Yeah, so Utah County. So it's great to have Utah County representation.
Yeah, and there's so much growth down there. It's crazy.
Awesome. So, any other questions anybody has? Otherwise, I would love to hear a motion to formally, how would we put it, to allow Michael to sit on the board, the UTRU board. I need a motion for that in a second.
Well, you suck at motions.
I know.
I move that we accept Michael Plowman as a new board member for UTRU.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
There was hesitation there.
Well, he made the motion, so it's fine. All right. Well, any opposed? Hearing none. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you, Michael. Congratulations. Welcome to the board. We'll be sure to kind of put a little thing out on that as well. All right. Well, kind of related to that, I know I brought this up a while ago, but I do want to keep hitting on it, and this is partially my fault. I didn't follow up just because of the zaniness in my life. But just as a reminder, I am looking for bios, like 1, maybe 2 sentence bios, nothing huge, for our board members, so that we can specifically kind of throw that into grant requests. I'm looking for, just kind of a basic who you are, why you care about transit, and more specifically, kind of some bona fides, right? Like, so why should we take this board seriously? I mean, we have the bona fide, we know what we're doing, but I've noticed that a few grants have kind of wanted that. I've put it together based off of just all of the conversations we've respectively had, but it'd be kind of nice to have it in your own words. I'd also like to get it up on the website as well, just so that, more points of legitimacy. So be thinking about that. I will be reaching out individually, as well as a group reminder, social pressure, to get that in. So just kind of keep an eye out for your email and help me out with that. Get that done as quickly as you can. Don't overthink it, but it would be appreciated. All right. So I'm going to move on to fundraising planning. And I know that we talked a little bit about donors and contact strategies last session. I'm just wondering if anybody has had any opportunity to kind of go over the lists. I know I presented it to you last month. If there's any individuals that stuck out that you feel that you might have a better contact rate with or chance of actually touching base. Otherwise, my plan is honestly going to be, I'm going to look at the highest dollar donors, start by sending out some letters, see what kind of fishing we can get from that. But obviously that face-to-face in person is the best way to go, if at all possible. So I'm just curious where people are at. Did they get a chance to look at it? Is there any comment? Where are we at?
So I have a few to add there, and I'm not sure if these are some that we've come across in the past. I was at the UCARE annual meeting where I got to meet 2 of our board trustees of UTA, Jeff Asserson and Beth Holbrook, who were very proud. One of them was very proud of the BRT. I also spoke with a few people from Rio Tinto and Zion's Bank, AT&T, and the Ivory Homes Foundation. Any objections or past experience with reaching out to any of them or putting them on the list? I figure a foundation is a foundation. If they want to support the community, they want to support the community. So that's kind of my approach. Although I just wanted to check as I'm putting these things in and sending some follow-up emails.
Is that because Ivory Homes is a blood-sucking suburban? Can we
strike that? Can we strike that from this?
No, I don't, John, I don't have any objections to that. I think anybody who wants to donate money to transit causes is doing so with the best intentions.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't think we should take anybody off the list. I think that, like I said, if they're willing to entertain what we do as an advocacy group, then yeah, I say, again, I mean, the union was founded on the idea that we're good vibes. We're not against anything, unless of course it's service cancellations or service reductions, then we're against that. But no, I think you're right. Let's, keep moving along those lines. Talk to anybody who's interested in transit.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Hey,
Larry.
Okay,
go ahead.
let me just, Curtis, I will just pitch in, and not that this is negative or anything, but the foundation I currently work for just got a no back from Zions Bank on a grant claiming that they're cutting back this year, but I don't think that it would hurt to, write one and reach out for sure.
Yeah, I spoke to Thomas Morgan, his executive vice president and a director there. So it was an interesting conversation because he seemed as though they were very supportive in the Utah County area of the BRT. I think it was the BRT down there. And they were a bit disappointed in some of the service from that. And so, of course, like, you're late. Some people are late once from a bus, and then, they don't think about all the times people were late because of car trouble. So there's a little bit of work to do with that, but that they seemed overall receptive. But yeah, what does that mean in terms of where their spending is right now and everything like that?
Well, Zions is in a bit of an existential struggle to whether, they're having a major issue with their stock. So I'm sure they have some
asset allocation. Oh,
yeah. So they have some issues, but they definitely have money that's allocated from their. It's not in their general budget fund. It's just foundation stuff. So yeah, I think they'd be a good group to talk to.
Yeah.
Cool. And then another one that I came across and spoke with while I was there. Well, there's two other things I wanted to bring up. One was the Utah Manufacturers Association. Spoke with the president there, and had a nice convo with him. And they seemed kind of interested in supporting transit or having a conversation around it. But they also were speaking about. There was also one other. Sorry, I got a text and it kind of threw my train of thought off here. There was also a new headquarters. We talked about this, Curtis. Stand or the train manufacturer. Stadler. Okay. Stadler. So I think they can connect us. The Utah Manufacturing Association can connect us, unless we've gotten some connection in the meantime. But so I'll work up that connection. Or Randy?
I know a few people at Stadler. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think they're a natural ally.
They're a very natural ally. They make the trains, right? So
yeah.
If we can work that angle. Chris, was it you that said that they were you've been trying to reach out to them in the past, but they've kind of been difficult to get through, or was that someone else? I can't remember.
It wasn't me. Yeah, I don't think we've tried to reach out to.
Well, they are a natural ally. They build the trains that go on the tracks, so they have a very vested interest in expanding transit. So and they're literally in our backyard. So we should definitely be reaching out to that. The only one I'll add is I have a personal relationship with Beth Holbrook. I ran her first campaign for State House back in like 2005, and so stayed in touch with her since. So that one I can handle, and I'd be happy to. Otherwise, we'll keep moving forward. There's a few names on the list, Curtis, I noticed. Go ahead.
I have one that I want to bring up. There's a company called J. Fisher. It's a real estate development company that is the master developer for the Union Station up in Ogden and all that area around there. And they just recently got an award from AOP, a real estate company, but they hosted a awards thing there in the track station in their development, and they gave everyone passes to ride Frontrunner up to it in
nice.
Ogden. So they're kind of a ally too for transit. So we can work on some contacts there. Called Jay, just the initial J Fisher.
Yeah, Randy, I think Randy, I think that's a great idea. And on the 15th, Jay Fisher will be a part of a I guess it's an open house. I guess you'd call it an open house with a community open house at the Union Station with some of the city officials, the Union Station Foundation board, and others about the progress and where we're going to head with the Union Station remodel of the campus. So if anybody's available on the 15th, I'll send that information, and if a group of us could maybe be there, that would be good too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, why don't you send that? Well, I don't know if you have the distribution list or not. I mean, you've got the emails. Why don't you go ahead? Yeah, I'll send that out. That'd be great.
Okay.
And it'd be great to shake some hands up in Ogden. Cool. Well, I'll be following up with all of you guys, unless there's anything else anybody wants to kind of bring up as far as fundraising ideas.
I'm just kind of looking at this list. Is Union Pacific Foundation on there?
I don't believe it is, actually, because I pulled this list actually from political campaign donors, which is why I'm looking to fill it out.
If you'll put Union Pacific Foundation on there, and I'll work with you, Curtis. In fact, I'll just send you Nathan Anderson's contact.
That'd be great. Yeah. I think that they would probably be willing to listen to us as well, at the very least. So, cool. Yeah. Like I said before, my focus is fundraising, and now that we're getting some funds, actually taking advantage of that and building out our programs. So cool. Anything else we want to talk about as far as that's concerned? Otherwise, like I said, I'm just going to start hitting some high dollar donors, just sending out letters, seeing what we get. I'm not expecting a huge catchment, but if letters are relatively cheap, and if we get one out of, say, 50, that's still not terrible. Yeah, 2% conversion rate's about right. Okay, anything else anybody wants to talk about? Okay, well, let's move on. A while back, it was like what, John, a week ago or so, with the bike bus up in Rose Park. I don't know if you all heard about that, but John and I had a nice little discussion about this could be another program that we could start to initiate. But John, I'm going to hand it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what a bike bus actually is and what kind of your vision is?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Curtis. I think first of all, I welcome kind of a robust discussion around this and around our mission, around relevance. But basically, a bike bus is a group of students at schools that ride together to get to school. And it replaces the parent drop-off line that's been going on and getting more and more popular over the last decades, and reduces all those emissions, gets people together, and it builds this support in communities for alternative transportation and alternative transportation infrastructure, and starts this whole conversation around what streets are for. And I think that conversation is a conversation we want to be a part of. I've been working on this as from a healthcare research point of view, and have had a forum, had a presentation at a national conference around it with Sam Balto from Portland, who is a big champion of this, and you can see his videos all over social media. And there's been a lot of interest around the world around these types of initiatives, getting people to look at how they get to school. And these can take the place of walking or biking, but usually they have quite a few adult chaperones or adults or parents that are driving these things, or a PE teacher. Turns out a lot of schools in the state don't have PE teachers, which is kind of a sad fact. And I've been trying to get some support at the U, and I've reached out to various departments of the U. There's some interest there. And also, importantly, on the Salt Lake City side, the Salt Lake City Schools Foundation is interested in funding this type of work. as well as the Salt Lake City Department of Transportation is interested in working together on defining these routes. Now, so why is this relevant to us in terms of UTRU? I think it is relevant because it's a way to reach an audience that we wouldn't normally reach, and that is parents and the schools. And I think that as we're looking at the future of transit, and as we look at the future of transportation, I think about two different things here that are going on. One is this whole work from home and people's need to move for commuting, and we're trying to get away from this whole commuting as the only reason that public transportation exists in the United States, right? We need to get away from that mentality. The UTA, some people there want to get away from that mentality, but I think if we want to have a situation in Utah where we go from less than 5% of trips are taken by public transit to getting towards what we should see in the future, which is something like 50% or more of trips are by public transit, how do we get from point A to point B? And I think part of that we get there is by building these alliances with the other transportation modes like cycling and walking, which feed buses, right? They feed buses and they feed transit, the more people that are out there. But also by just broadening our kind of coalition and getting out of the typical, I would say, conversations around transit and kind of flipping that conversation. So that's what excites me about the bike bus, is that all of a sudden, if we're there providing support for these things and helping to initiate them in some manner, and this isn't something that needs to happen right away. This could be, next year or next spring. But if we're at that table in that conversation, as I think Devin had responded that he's doing a bike bus down in Daybreak, all of a sudden we're having a conversation about transit with entire school groups, with parents, with a whole other group of people, and they're thinking about how to connect the cycling infrastructure with transit infrastructure, and they're two pieces of the same puzzle, right? And as people are having those conversations and making those things, then they're talking to their reps about that, and then they're raising the profile of these things. And so I don't think they're that difficult to. There's quite a bit of work in terms of how you coordinate these things. I've seen it going on at Rose Park, finding the days, finding the, make sure the parents are on board. There's the outreach, there's pieces around getting bikes to kids that don't have bikes, or getting some kind of maintenance done as well on the bikes. And then there's storage, and so people don't have the ability to store. So there's a lot of pieces that that a nonprofit could come in and help grease, make it be a little more less friction to getting these things up and running. And I think that support would really be appreciated among the parents. But then it just would start this conversation, and it would start this new coalition of people that would be talking about transit, who normally wouldn't be talking about transit. Because right now, all these schools around the Wasatch Front and throughout Utah, you're either taking the bus to school or you're getting dropped off, and more kids are getting dropped off, and more. So it's another way we can get into these communities. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts were with bike buses. I also see them as a way, when we're talking to Department of Transportation in Salt Lake City, and I think this conversation will happen with other Department of Transportations in other cities throughout the Wasatch Front, is we were talking about how do we align the bike bus with neighborhood byways and those plans for neighborhood byways, and how those neighborhood byways could also be aligned with other existing bike infrastructure, and then how that's aligned with transit infrastructure. And so then you can see that conversation starts to reinforce itself as when you see more people on biking on buses in the community, and all we know about making sure people are visible on buses, like the whole ghost bus debate reminds us that you get that support built. Of course, I welcome thoughts around how without scope this is for us. I don't see any other bike advocacy groups that are able to take on this project right now. I see them building a supporting role. Bike Utah is one that I've talked to that's building this kind of support for some of this, but they have they're kind of slotted. When I said nimble, I think nimble is not the right word. Those nonprofits out there in bike advocacy are kind of occupied and already have slotted in projects. And so for them to take on something new, it's an ask, and they have to, it's adding on to existing project manager tasks. Where I think for us, we can say like, oh, this works with us, and it builds this coalition allies with them. We could be kind of managers of these types of things, and then help them move forward. And then they would bring in Bike Utah, Bike Lake City, the other people as allies in the Provo Bike Collective, etc. So I think there's a strategy here where we're reaching out to new groups, where we're building alliances with bike groups, and where we're starting conversations with cities and transportation departments at the local level, all as part of this. That could really be beneficial to UTRU. And also, I think it excites a lot of people when I talk to people about this and discuss it with potential funders and donors. Really excites them, and it's very tangible, and it's something you can build and create in a very short time frame. And I think that's really important for a transit advocacy group, is to have these kind of short-term victories that show the volunteer base and show the donors and show people in the community that we can get stuff done, but also that things can change. Like Transit Imagine is great, and I think it helps to build that vision, but what does that look like in 2 or 3 years? It's still not there, right? And then people are like, what am I wasting money on this for, or wasting time, right? So I think that there's got to be that big picture of where we're going, but also these little steps on how to get there. And we got to be strategic about those little steps and make sure that those little steps on how to get there build a coalition and spread us around the community in a way that's unique, and then builds that political support that's needed. So that's my little intro to the bike bus. But yeah, Chris, go ahead.
So it's a great idea, but our mission is transit advocacy. And I think that if we were able to develop a companion program with groups that are starting bike buses, that's great. But again, my first thought when you brought this up is, well, why aren't the nonprofit bike organizations taking the lead on this? Because really, that's their ball game, right? They deal with bikes. So to me, it seems that, okay, then what it sounds like to me is that they don't literally have an organizational structure that can go in and develop this program, right? And so that's to me, that's somewhat of a red flag. If they can't do it, if it's not easy for them to do it, then I don't see how it's going to be easier for us to do it. And again, you raise a valid point about getting people excited about transit. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, and it seems like there's a lot of people that get upset about service that's in their neighborhood, like these people in the avenues, right? They're upset because the buses are creaking through 5 or 6 times after 10 o'clock, and that's inconvenient for them. So I don't think that we're at a point where we can take on a completely, because this would be outside of what our mission is, and that is to promote directly people getting on the bus, getting on the train. And it's why the Transit Imagined is basically more buses, more trains everywhere all the time, right? And so what we want to do is we want to get people on the bus, we want to get them on the train, we want more routes, more trains. And while I think that the idea of getting kids excited for transit is a great idea, I don't know that it's there. I just don't see it as a natural, and certainly not by spring, and certainly not right now. I don't think we have the ability to get get a program like this off the ground, because again, it completely, it's completely brand new. It's completely foreign to what our mission is, and that is to get, people to get better transit. Are bikes better transit? Yep, they certainly are. My inclination would be that what we want as a community, as a society, is we want something that's similar to what happens in the Netherlands, where you have, bike roadways right next to the roadway. You have pedestrian pathways right next to the bike pathways. It's like the article that was in the Tribune here about how Daybreak is such a cutting edge bicycle community, which it really isn't, right? It is still Daybreak is still car centric, right? And I pointed this out on that particular article, is that so if it's not a great bicycle community. They showed pictures of the two bicyclists waiting at a corner to cross a pedestrian walkway. So we've got a long way to go before we can tackle bicycles and buses. But one of the things that I have continuously commented on, the bikes on buses program, is pretty good. It's actually, let's get more bikes on buses. Let's get people taking bikes. Well, the problem is that you can only fit on maximum 3 bikes on a bus. And so once you have talked people into taking the bicycle on the bus, if you get more than 3 people with a bike on a bus, it's no longer convenient. The people that are actually riding the bus get upset because they can't sit down because there's somebody with a bicycle in the way. It slows. So the basic thing in my mind is that bicycles are a companion to transit, right? You take a bicycle as an alternative even to transit, right? If I had a decent bicycle path, I would not take the bus to the store, but I don't. Riding down 9th East on a bicycle would surely mean that I could be, one of those statistics ending up on the side of the road because somebody believes that bicycles shouldn't be on a road, right? So they need their own separate byways before we can even get onto it. So I mean, I don't want to throw water on the idea, because I think it's a great idea. I just don't think that we have the ability to to implement it. I mean, there's a ton of things that we still need to do. Like, for instance, how white and how old is our board right now, right? And male, old, white, and male. We need minorities to get on board. We need women on the board. We need women and minorities working towards getting better transit in their neighborhoods. And so taking a bike bus approach, again, great idea, but I think we're not there. I mean, if we have hundreds more members, and the CAT program is working, and the Transit Imagined is out there, and people understand what it is we're trying to do, then I think we can hop on board and take a better bite at the apple. But right now, again, like I said, I think that the bike organizations are the ones that should be spearheading this, and they're not. And so to me, that says there's something either wrong with their organizations, or that they're not focused on. So I don't know. Maybe the approach we take is that we get with them and we say, look, this is what you guys should be doing. This is an opportunity for all of us, right? You guys need to hop on board and get the bike buses moving, and we can talk about transit in that realm. So I kind of think that that's probably where the program needs to go, is that we, as an interested party, because you're right, we are interested, right? But that I think us as an interested party get with these bike organizations and say, here's an excellent opportunity for you to get kids on bikes, and it's an excellent opportunity for us to get kids on bikes onto buses.
So a couple things, Chris, and I appreciate all of your comments and obviously your experience as well with all of this and the fact that you've been at the table, advocating for transit for all these years. So a couple things. One is I think my conversations with Bike Utah and with some others haven't been extensive, but my understanding is Bike Utah, when I've talked to them about this, has been they already have a bike school education program that's grant funded and people and staff dedicated to that, but it's not the bike to school piece in terms of running or in terms of helping initiate and support bike buses as an approach is outside the scope of those grants, because those are kind of assemblies, come in, do some test rides, and can work together with them. And this may be something that evolves into similar to the Van Pool project, where it's grant funded through the University of Utah, and UTRU has a seat at the table, and in terms of transit advocacy and education, and then the bike teams, the Bike Utahs, etc., have a seat at the table for the bike side. I think from my understanding and my reading of Netherlands and Denmark, in the kind of the Dutch experience rather of moving towards transit and cycling, is one, they see this as one and the same system, that they feed each other, and that the cycling infrastructure and cycling feeds transit and is part and parcel of the same system. But also, so it's a form of public transit, so to speak, but also that a lot of this started in the 70s when there was a big 60s, there was a big push toward modernization of transportation in the Netherlands, and that meant Americanization of roadways. And the pushback against that came from schools and children's deaths on the roadways and roadway safety. And that coalition is what pushed the cultural move towards cycling as transportation mode. Another thing I think is that when we talk about women and minorities getting on the board, if we support the Rose Park bike bus, there's plenty of women in mind. There was a woman who was leading it, and there were minorities that were playing a big part of that bike bus. And so there's a natural ability to, like I said, broaden our coalition by playing a role here. Now, what is our role? What do we do exactly? And do we have this conversation more with, like you said, with the biking groups and say like, hey, we want to build a coalition, and we don't mind necessarily spearheading that coalition in some fashion, or starting that discussion in some fashion, so that we all find a way to work together. I think that's a good approach as well. But I think that so right now we have a cycling and walking in Utah is recreation. It's not transportation. And if cycling and walking stay as recreation and not transportation, those feeds to buses and to public transit are not there. And so then people don't see walking and biking to get around that last mile, first mile piece as part of public transportation, and it doesn't feed public transportation. And so public transportation is always starving for riders because it's only based on if you live right by a bus stop or if it's taking you from point A to point B conveniently. So yeah. I think there's a strategic piece here that is part of this coalition building, but also part of broadening the appeal, because we're stuck at less than 5% of people riding public transportation, right? We're stuck at like 2 or 3% cycling transportation. And how do we break out of that? I'm trying to make us think a little bit outside the box in terms of where we fit to break out of that, because we're stuck there. And I don't see necessarily what are the ways that are successful from other cities of getting to 50%. I see that there's been some cities at 50% or at 20% for the past few decades, and that hasn't changed. And the cities at 5% haven't changed either, or like less than 5% haven't changed either. Like it's just been status quo across the board. But I have been reading about, the one ways things that have changed, such as Rotterdam is a good example in the Netherlands. And there's another small city there as well. And the way that they switched this equation was around, I think, cycling infrastructure. And
John, I mean, I get that, but I mean, even in the Netherlands, you cannot take a bicycle onto buses in rush hour. It's not allowed.
Yeah,
And
they
so,
have parking for the bikes in a lot
yeah,
of places.
you have parking, and so the idea is that again, if it's at least for the way that UTA and the way that that they're trying to push the bike infrastructure right now is to try to get and again the bigger issue is that it's a first last mile alternative. And again, I mean, so I mean, if we want to become a bike, support the bike um, uh, uh, infrastructure, and that's a major part of what we want to do, then again, I think it changes the whole mission of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. We can do companion programs, and I think we can talk to the bike nonprofits and say, this is, they have these education programs, but what they really need to do is they need to say, we're committed to the bike program and the bike buses, and we're going to implement that. They're the ones that should be going to get the funding to start those programs. I mean, because again, I the uh, should should we start saying that there needs to be more high occupancy vehicle lanes on the freeway, because technically those are within the scope of what we should be talking about, because it reduces congestion, it gets people frees up the traffic on the freeways. Well, no, I don't think that's what we should be. We could talk about it. We can say, yeah, more HOV lanes might be nice, but again, it changes the idea of a UTRU implemented, going into schools and setting up bike buses, changes the whole makeup of what we're trying to do. So I think that we can do it as a companion program, and that we can be part of the discussion with the bike groups to start it. But I think they're the ones that have to run with it, because they're the ones that are. uh, I mean, it just does. Again, it just does not make sense for us to be doing something that technically that's something they should do. I mean, it would be like them starting a transit imagined program. Why would they do that? I mean, yeah, getting bikes onto buses and is actually good for them, but I don't. They're not spearheading a transit oriented program. So I mean, again, like I said, it's a great idea. I just don't know that it's a piece of the puzzle that we can take a bite out of. I mean, here's the best way to see if this works. And that is that some of these people in the in the uh in the Rose Park, right? You go ask
Mhm.
them, you find out if they want to be a board member and if they would be willing to come to our meetings. And I think that's probably the best way to figure out whether or not there's a real interest in bike buses and transit. If they're not willing to serve on the board, then I think that kind of encapsulates the problem, and that is that they're focused on getting bikes in the schools and not necessarily converting that to the transit. Are they transit users? Are the people that have I mean, I know you are, which is that's one reason why we're talking about this. But
Mhm.
again, if they're not willing to serve on the board as and to be fully committed to getting more transit users into the system, then I think that pretty much answers the question as to uh, the ability to have a program that truly does bring, transit users or bike riders onto the transit system. And like I said, I wholly agree that the system is the whole system, roads, bikes, transit users, is not where it needs to be in the United States. And it goes back to some of the planning that we do, right? And and just kind of as a side note, I mean, so Alex Cragen basically decided, rightfully so, and he's right in that Sweet Streets is probably the best way in his mind that's going to bring about the effective change that we need for for transit and transportation in general. And so that's one reason why he's, why he's no longer working towards transit goals, right? So I mean, we've got our lane, I guess, and our lane is primarily transit users and riders, and um and like I said, I think the bike buses are a good companion, but I don't know. I don't think we should be spearheading it. I can't see. I just can't see the organization. I mean, if we were to get a grant that would put all of this stuff together, then it totally changes what we do as a group. So that's all I have to say about that.
What do other people think? Chris, I appreciate and I really understand where you're coming from and the need to stay focused as an organization on our goals. And I think that's a really important piece of this conversation. At the same time, and this may be my anchoring bias, I see a big opportunity here. And I see an opportunity for us to really get into the community in a different way than we have before, and with a different set of people than before. So I'm just curious what other people think about this and their thoughts. I think starting as getting this conversation, bringing this conversation forward with other organizations and being part of the conversation in some manner. Whether or not we spearhead, that's something we could always decide. We could see how that evolves, I would say. It's not something we have to decide today or within the next few months even. But I think being at the table with various partners and understanding the situation and understanding and trying to see how we can move this forward, because I think it could be very strategic and part of this whole cultural shift that kind of Alex was talking about. But what do other people think on the call? A lot of muted people here. Let's hear it.
I'll chime in if you want.
Yeah.
This is Zach. I'm the one doing the bike bus down here in Daybreak. And I don't. Obviously, like I feel like all of this, and again, I'm biased because I'm building a bike bus here in Daybreak. But I think there's a lot of synergies with biking and transit and everything. I think I would love to see a coalition, and I agree with both of you. Like, I would love for us to be involved, but at the same time, like, we don't want to step on other organizations' toes that do bike stuff, the Bike Collective, Bike Utah, and all that. But then at the same time, like maybe we need I don't know, and maybe not officially, but like as a UTRU organization, but at least, I don't know, have those conversations, get some of the other, I don't know, build the coalition, but not run the coalition to get these bike buses going. But a lot of the stuff I'm doing as far as getting the bike bus together can be essentially templatized, and then we can at least just put that out. What I'm doing is kind of documenting how to put it together. I have a generic template form for like signing up. And then I have an app that I'm working on. It's just like a simple website where parents can go to the website and then see like the location of the bike bus as it moves through the stops. I worked a little bit with Trina Perez there at the Rose Park bike bus, but I didn't do anything besides help them raise money for or in conjunction with the bicycle collective, raise money to get kids bikes and helmets and all that kind of gear. But, sorry, that's long-winded and I'm kind of rambling, but I think like at least being involved in a in a group of other organizations working towards this, but yeah, might not be our place to lead that group, that coalition, but maybe if we get the coalition together and then hand it off for somebody else to lead, maybe that's a lot of these organizations probably would love this idea. When I went and talked to the bike collective about it, they were pretty excited about hearing about it. And they even talked about setting up some kind of like ongoing support and funding to help, future bike buses source bikes for kids that can't afford them.
Who's the executive director over at the bike collective? Is it
Donna?
Donna. Yep, I know Donna. I can talk to Donna and we can get this started up in like a week. I'll give Donna. I know Donna. I know Donna so well. She once sprayed me with barbecue sauce at a function on my best jacket in my best suit, and she sprayed. And you can ask her about this. She's embarrassed about it, but I can talk to Donna and I could get this set up within like this. And but again, it would be a companion program, Zach. I think you're right. I think the idea that you came up with the idea of a manual. I mean, we could put a manual on the website like that, and I think it would work. And I think a conversation like you're talking about to kind of get things going is probably where it needs to be rather than a spearhead.
And I think also it's Salt Lake City schools that have the transit passes for students, right? There's no other school district in the state that has that.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's because there's no service over the rest of the state. So.
Oh, Zach, you were going to say something?
Well, I was going to mention that, like, the Salt Lake City School District has a program with UTA where all elementary, high school students get free bus pass, like transit passes. I'm curious. I don't know if there's any kind of like education where anyone's teaching these kids how to use the bus or anything like that. But that sounds like a super good like project that we could spearhead.
How to use the bus with your bike.
Yeah.
Even that, or just how to use the bus in general.
Or how to use the bus in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think,
anyways,
we spent a lot of time and kind of fleshing this out, but I think it needs to be more of a strategic process of how and where and what and whether we want to be involved in it. I mean, what resources do we have that can specifically add to the project, and how does it benefit UTRU? And so, I mean, I think, John, you're obviously passionate about it, and I think it'd be great to put some of those things down as just like, okay, here's what we get out of it, and here's why we should be involved in it, because we have these particular, I mean, obviously we have you and Zach that are both putting together something, so that's a resource right there, and an asset that we can bring to the table. But yeah, I think it's a little bit, it seems like it's kind of all over the place. It's like a great idea to have a bike bus because it's good for our community, but what's it do to further our mission, like Chris said? So yeah, we can look at that later as a more strategic plan.
I think we could do this. We could start the conversations with Bike Collective. I'll kind of rope Curtis into some of the conversations I'm having on my end at the U as well. and see where it goes from there. No commitment to anything at this time. I think it's the most exciting conversation about transportation taking place in the state, in the country, perhaps, is the discussion around biking to school and around collective biking to school. And I think there's not a lot of big conversations happening with a lot of energy and excitement behind them around transportation. And I think we want to be at that table. What role we play at that table, TBD. Where I think it's within our scope in some manner, because transportation is in our scope, and active transportation is part of public transportation. I think they feed off of each other, and the more you have one, the more you get of the other, and they have to strengthen each other in some manner. But how we do that, where we would play that role, maybe we're just there, because I could see us going in and being just the supporting role of like, all right, the bike bus is getting going, and we're going to do a training with the parents around transit advocacy and talk about how do you get free bus passes, free UTA passes for the schools. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're getting UTA passes and students, and then we're having assemblies with students about how to use the buses, and then all of a sudden that's a conversation, and that was facilitated via the bike buses. That could be part of it.
I'm excited about that, John. I mean, yeah, the bikes are great, but I'm a transit guy. I think the last time I was on a bike was 2004. And that's because I lived in an area where I could actually use my bike. Now I'm not in a biking area. But again, and gosh, this is a sad reflection of where we're at with transit. Because what we really should be talking about is why half of our 15-minute routes, or 3/4 of our 15-minute routes, have been canceled, and why I still get notices on the 209 saying that, well, that every half-hour route now is only every hour because we don't have enough drivers to run the half-hour bus after 7 o'clock. So I mean, those are things that I'm concerned about as a transit user, and if there aren't enough people getting excited about more service, then we're not doing our job. We're just simply not doing our job if there are not people thinking that a 15-minute or a 10-minute route down Redwood Road doesn't excite you. If a 5-minute route down Redwood Road does not excite you, then you are not a true transit user. If a 15-minute route in the avenues does not excite you, you are not a true transit rider, right? The more places the bus goes, the more places the train goes, the longer the buses go, the longer the trains go. That's the excitement that we should be building. And granted, I mean, I hear you. I totally get it that people are, and because it is exciting. I mean, I've watched the videos, and the kids are like, wow, this is great. I mean, those videos are really powerful to watch, to see all those kids. Well, number one, they're outside, and we don't see kids outside anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that, yes, that's exciting to watch, definitely. And so, I mean, I get it. I do get it, but I think that I think a companion program, and I think Zach was the one that brought this up, or at least talked about it, is that if we can get these collectives and the bicycle groups to spearhead it, I think what we just need to give them a shove. We just need to say, look, you guys, this is what you need to be doing, because not only does it help you, but it helps us. And we can, like you said, we can build the coalition. And I mean, yeah, I get that. And I think that's what we have to do.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, too, we come in and say, okay, we want to see this happen. And part of what we can do is we can have some education that we bring in and support to say, oh, this is how you get UTA passes for your schools.
This is how you ride the bus. And gosh,
yeah, this is how you ride the bus.
If you have to ride a half a mile on your bicycle to get on your bus, well, maybe we need more buses in your area. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you can talk about that. I mean, there's just, again, we're not there. I mean, Sweet Streets has it right. We have to change the infrastructure structure. You have it right. You're talking about the bicycles in the schools. We just need to connect it all together, and I think it'll work. So
Yeah. So a couple take homes I think would be, I will do this. So I'll follow up with Curtis and Zach, and perhaps Chris too, to have a conversation with the Bike Collective ED. I'll also kind of rope Curtis in, or I'll start some conversations around with Zach around where they're at and understand better where that is in terms of the bike bus down there. And then also have some conversations around where this meshes together with students and UTA passes, and kind of some digging into that, and how that happened, and where that could feed each other. So cool. This is a great conversation. I think this was a really good. I know we're going over time, and I appreciate everybody spending their time this morning on this. And Chris, I appreciate all your insight around this. And so, yeah, I think we'll go from there.
Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah, thank you all for the lively discussion on that. It is appreciated. So at the discretion of the board, I think we should probably skip the discussion about hybrid meetings. Basically, I was just wondering if we want to start getting together in person, but we can talk about that next. Okay. Maybe we'll have a discussion offline about that. And then also at the discretion of the board, I think we should skip the open forum, since we have already had quite the open forum. Unless Scott, I know if you're hanging in there, if you have anything in particular to report for the South Salt Lake Sugar House. If you have anything you'd like to report, feel free.
Yeah, okay, so let's see, we are getting going on our Adopt a Stop thing. It is my stop. As far as I know, I have done everything for getting the adoption thing up. Sam just hasn't gotten back to me yet, but she said she's making the sign. So yeah, just been looking after it. It's actually been really easy. Like, it's this stop in particular, I don't know, maybe most stops are like this, but they're very easy to just kind of check up on and maintain. Like, I haven't had to do literally anything yet because it's been fine. Like, no trash on the ground, nothing. So
nice.
Yeah, and then we are gonna have a chapter meeting this week at the Sprague branch again. And then yeah, something I wanted to talk about with with that bike bus and bus education discussion is, I think the chapters could put in some work there, since we are local and we have bodies, and like, we could be a support group there for at least the first thing I thought of with the bike bus is, hey, we have people that know bike maintenance, so we could help the kids maintain their bikes and like fix flat tires and stuff. And we wouldn't be necessarily running a bike bus, because I feel like the parents have to be very passionate about it for the bike bus to actually be successful. So I think they're the real ones that have to be the true spearheads for it, but they do need a support structure around them to keep it going, because otherwise you can kind of lose your way pretty easily if you hit an obstacle you don't know how to overcome. So yeah, my opinion on that is, we as a chapter, we could be a support structure easily for a bike bus, or we could also do, some kind of outreach program with teaching kids how to ride the bus or use the UTA system in general, and just like, hey, this is how the transit app works. This is how you can figure out that the bus is going to be here at this time, or this is how you can plan a route. Like, that would probably be for like high schoolers, I would think. But yeah, I know we have a lot of people that are passionate in the chapter and want to do stuff, and so finding stuff for us to do is great.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I will get that. I meant to do it sooner. I apologize. I know it's on Tuesday, but I will get the notice out as well for the meeting on Tuesday for you guys. So thank you for that. Okay.
So Curtis,
well,
Curtis,
yeah.
I know we're over time and I don't want to take too much time, but I did think it was a little bit timely to mention, I'm on the board for 4th Street Clinic, and as part of that, we were walking in the Pride Parade last week, which was last Sunday. And we took tracks from Fort Union downtown, and by the time we got to Murray's 50 Murray Central, the train was totally full, and nobody would let. There was people actually standing at the doors, not letting people get on, and the train was running every half an hour, right? So there was people standing out there going, well, the next train is in an hour, right? So I'm supposed to be down there, and I thought I was doing the right thing, and it was standing room only. And so my point is, when there's big opportunities to show a good reason why you should use transit, and I complained about this before about the ski buses because it was the same thing. The face of UTA is not there at all, and the experience is terrible. And so when people think that they might want to use it on a regular occasion, they're like, no way.
You're not going to do
it.
Shit show.
They're not
Yeah.
going to do
It
it.
was a total shit show, and I'm not doing it. And we'll figure out something else. And it's a big opportunity for UTA to have their people. Their I don't know if they disbanded their police deal or what, but there was no presence of, oh, here's what you should do, or have, try to let people on the train, or no, there's too many, or we need to get more trains, we're going to have more come on. Whatever they need to do to make it so that the one time that people want to go to that something downtown, or the jazz game, or the conference, or the football game, that it's a good experience. So that's, and
real
I know
quick,
we're
Randy,
over time.
they could have added more cars, but UTA has made the decision that more cars equal more maintenance. And so this, it's a cost saving measure, right? So ordinarily they would have 3 or 4 cars on those weekend trains, but now they've reduced them down to 2. And so because there's only 2, there's when they do something like this with Pride, there's a lot more people that try to get on it. And like I said, and again, this gets back to this whole idea of transit. And what do we want? Well, we want more buses, more trains everywhere all the time. And once we start beating that drum that that's what we want, then people have to understand that, gosh, because they had a problem getting on the train at Pride, they need to be part of the advocacy group with Utah Transit Riders, so that we could go to UTA and we can say, this is what we want, and because the service you're giving is not good. But like I said, I totally agree with what you're saying.
I'll tell you, it's a combination of subpar service with not enough trains and not enough scheduling, not enough forethought, but also just bad organization and people skills and people management. They should have had people at every single track station that was feeding in down there. There's no reason they shouldn't have done that. So anyway, or at least maybe somebody on each train, kind of walking up and down and trying to organize. But anyway, that's just I want to bring that up before it gets to be not a current topic,
It's a very good point, and we need to keep bringing it up.
I think that I agree. I think that's a good observation, and something that rightly you should be upset about, right? It's not as if this just happened. We know when Pride is, we know it's a big event, and for UTA to fall short is disappointing. And I always like to say, like, we want to at least be cordial with UTA, but I don't think that we just roll over for them either. And I think that this is one of those places where it is unacceptable. And if you have one bad if it's you always want to make the transit experience the best, or you should always be tailoring the transit experience for the first time user, right? Because if you are like, oh, well, they know the next train will come, oh, it'll be just fine, like, you're never going to capture the next rider, right? And so this is one of those areas where we really do need to call UTA out, and maybe we'll do some, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe some should probably get a blog post put together, publish that out. On the private end, we could probably reach out to Megan and probably a couple of other people as well and just say, hey, what happened here? Randy, could you just type up what your experience was kind of specifically, and then I can kind of turn that into a blog post. And then we can kind of start sending that out. We'll send it to like the Trib and Deseret News, even though they won't care. And let's do a little media around this and say, hey, this is the experience of our board member. This is why, and then I'll throw in this is why this is important. That first time writer really needs to make sure that it's a good experience, because otherwise UTA's lost them and it's going to be really hard to get them back. I think that would be a good piece. Okay, cool. We're over by a bit, but is there anything else anybody wants to talk about right away?
I think it's a great idea to have that submitted as a blog post and then as like a letter to get published at the UTA. I mean, at the Trib. That'd be good. It's enough about hearing about the damn ghost buses. Let's hear about how we can make things better.
Exactly.
Real quick. I'm sorry. So this is one thing we need to be a little bit better at, is that we need to get, I had no idea this meeting was even taking place on the one where you were quoted on the ghost bust, then they've co-opted that, by the way. And I'm having an email discussion with Roan Tempest about that, and he says that it's not co-opt, but it is. A ghost bus is something that shows up on an application that actually never shows up at the bus stop. It is not buses that have no rider.
No. I've experienced that.
So at any rate, we need to get a little bit better. And I don't know whether you knew this meeting was coming up, but we need to figure out how to get these meetings published so that we can get our members actually out there and participating, which I think I mean, there were obviously pro bus people there or pro transit people there, but we need to kind of figure out this piece a little bit better. And as always, of course, as I always say, if we need to flip over a bus and set it on fire, we'll do that, but we're not there yet. So
we all know your proclivity to flipping over a bus.
We'll flip over a bus and set it on fire, and we'll draw attention to transit, but we're not there yet.
No, we're not. Okay, cool. Well, unless there's anything else, the last item on the agenda is adjournment as a non-debatable motion. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, it's non-debatable. It happens.
Oh, that's right. It's not debatable. It just happens.
It just
happens.
Right.
Okay. It just happens. I always forget that part.
Real quick, John, Curtis, can you stay on the line just really quick so we can have a quick chat real quick?
Sure. Not a problem. All right. Well, thank you for everybody else.
Thanks, everyone.
In our next meeting, just to let you know, that will be on July 9th is our next meeting, 10 a.m. Cool. All right. Well,
Thanks, everybody.
I'll stop the recording, and y'all have a good